we on? Because Marisol's on. Hey, Marisol.
Hey, Carol.
Trying to get our phones together. So I'm one of the three.
Just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll get started. Hope everybody is having a great day. If you're having a great day, can we get some likes? Can we get some likes if you're having a great day?
I know CT's warming up.
Yeah, Carol, you can go ahead and share. That would be awesome if you want to. Maybe we can, if you share the page, we're trying to add value to some people's lives and relationships and maybe some encouragement and inspiration. So even though some people watching this that's in our immediate circle may not find it necessarily beneficial, if you share it with somebody else, you never know what somebody else is going through. Maybe they may find some benefit. So yeah, Carol, if you can share the page, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Jody's on. Hi, Jody.
Hey, Jody. So we have Connecticut coming in. So we'll get started in another minute. Thank you, Jody.
Does our heads look too big?
Well, I already know my head is big. Can't shrink this thing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So just first of all, thank everybody for joining us again this evening. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Jody. We really appreciate it. So if we want to circle back to what we covered in the last live session. So in the last live session, we talked about us being teenage parents. As young as Nydia was, how some people were thinking that I robbed the cradle and did the R. Kelly thing, and I just had to clear that up, that we are 2 years apart. And also, I just want to say something else while we're talking about it is, we talked about briefly me not having a father in my house, and we had got a comment that I didn't address because they joined late. So I'm going to circle back at the end to address that comment because I think that comment is pretty emotional, and I'm going to try to do it without kind of like breaking down because it's really emotional for me. And also, I just want to circle back and talk about Nydia as a teenage mother. So one thing that definitely didn't come out at least from my point of view, and you guys know how much I appreciate her, is as a teenage mother, she was unbelievable. The way that I would observe her holding Chellis, caring for Chellis, it just seemed like it's so natural. And I don't know if it's like the way the universe is set up that makes it so natural for a mother to nurture and hold their kids a certain way, but I had to learn, and I had to learn about not bobbling the head around and how to hold the baby, and it's just amazing how the universe works things out. And that just reminds me of a quick story. I'm not sure how many parents on the line have newborn kids or had you know, or had kids in general, but if you guys have ever had your kids have what they call a blowout, which is also known as a diaper explosion. So, you know where I'm going, right?
Jealous. Sorry, jealous.
So let me just say this, and this is where, you know, I really get to appreciate having a mother around, okay, as a father. Okay, so there was a time that when she came in to move in with me, you know, we had Chellis. Chellis was always a clean baby, but it was one time that I took Chellis somewhere, and she went somewhere with, I don't even know
I
where.
was at my mom's.
So she went to visit somebody else, but I had Chellis in the car seat in the back in the back of the car. So what happened was, I'm driving, and it was me and one of my buddies was in the car, because we try not to mention names in this, but it's me and one of my buddies, my close friends in the car, and Chellis is in the back seat in her car seat, and I just hear a pop, okay? So I'm thinking that pop is air, and, you know, no big deal. So by the time we park, and I have to take Chellis out of the car, what I see is, I take her out of the car seat, and I see this big explosion. So there's all types of shit in her hair. And I'm just like, where the hell is Nene? Because I don't even know I don't know what to do right now, okay? So at that time, you get mad at everybody except for the baby, and everything except for the baby. I mean, pulling her out the car seat, I was mad at the car seat because the car seat didn't have a hole in it, or like a built-in toilet to prevent it. I'm mad at the pamper because the pamper didn't hold it in. I'm mad at opening the doors because the doors can't open up fast enough. And then I'm mad at the bathtub because she's still a baby, and I gotta hold her up in the bathtub and still clean all this stuff up at the same time. So luckily, I don't know how the universe works it out, but she walks in, and me and my buddy have Chellis in the bathtub, and she's like, what the?
No. Okay. I walk in the house, and my poor baby is on the floor. The buddy is holding Chellis's legs back, and Julian has like 20 wipes on the floor trying to clean up Chellis. I'm like, what are y'all? First of all, I'm like, why is my baby's butt like, you know, like you walk in, I'm like, what are they doing to my baby? Then I was like, okay, y'all used all my wipes?
Wow.
And then I picked up the baby, I picked up Chellis, and I took her I was like, just give me Chellis. I took her to the bathroom, and I gave her a bath, it freshened her up, everything, brought her back out, and was like, here you go.
And that time took all of maybe 10 minutes, whereas I think it would have taken me, like an hour and a half to do it with all the wipies? So again, I just want to reiterate how much of a great mother she's been from the start, and I really appreciate her. So now let's jump into the topic of the day. The topic of the day, like, you know, I mentioned earlier on the first live, we're going to talk about our failures, we're going to talk about our successes, and today we're going to talk about almost what failed. Okay, so I don't know if you want to kick it off and bring it back to the 1990s.
Starting from, where are we starting from?
You want to start from when we left Manchester to move to Bloomfield?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can. So for those of you, I guess it's Julian saying that I moved in with him. So I was always with my mom. Just to give you a little background, I was a single child until 12 years old, when I was told I was gonna have a sibling. I'm a spoiled brat. Everybody probably knows that. I was the only child to my dad, but I do have a brother. We're 13 years apart. So from what Julian is saying, you know, other people can probably relate. In my family, there was always a baby around, so we always, you know, knew how to change Pampers, knew how to hold a baby, knew how to do those things. So, and my brother was born when I was 13, so I was always helping with him. But the night before I gave birth to Chellis, I went and I stayed with Julian. And when I came home from the hospital, that's where I went with Julian and my mother-in-law. I don't know, Thelma, Bay, Mrs. Allen. And so we lived with her for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then we had our own apartment. And then I don't remember the dates. I graduated high school in there, and then we moved to Bloomfield. It was all right, me, you, Chelis, and your mom.
And we got engaged the first time.
Well, we got engaged the first time before I gave birth to Chelis, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to say no dates because I don't really remember the date, but it was before I gave birth to Chelis. So we were always engaged. I was only in, when I gave birth to Chelis, I was in 11th grade. So at the time they sent a tutor to the house to help me, and then I went back to school, and I finished school actually in January of my senior year. So I was able to stay home with Chell. And I had another friend that encouraged me to go to college. She helped me fill out some paperwork, and I was able to go to Manchester Community College. But in around that time, I think, is when we had moved.
We moved to Bloomfield.
Moved to Bloomfield. So.
Okay, so when we moved to Bloomfield, I thought it was a wise idea to probably have my mother move back in. So when my mother moved back in with us, my whole intent was trying to save some money, because at that time, you know, I was trying to think like the man of the house and raise some money. And I didn't really think about how it was going to really resonate with Nene at that time. So fast forward after we moved into Bloomfield a couple years, for some reason, she felt a little...
Well, yeah, we lived together. We moved to Bloomfield when I was like, what, 19, maybe 18 or 19, around that time frame. I was going to college. I was, you know, living with Julian. I had Chelis. And I had decided that I needed to get a job. So at 19 years old, I applied for and got a job, which I still work at now. It's going to be 24 years. And, you know, here we are. But like any young person, I think, to have a baby so young, you know, I went from my mom's house right straight to Julian and his mom. And, you know, I went to work at 19. And I think we separated, it was about 2 years later. Like, I was about 20, 21 almost.
Okay. Yeah.
So our birthdays are in the end of the year. So I was almost 21, and I decided that, you know, I have a job. I'm a grown up now. I felt like I wanted to go out in the world and see what it was like. I just felt like I needed to do it for myself, to prove to myself and maybe other people who doubted me that I could do it, that I could live this life and do what I needed to do for me, for Nene, not, you know, relying on other people, whether it was my mother, Julie, and Thelma. And so that's what I did, and it only lasted for like 6 months, no lie. Yeah. Not because I couldn't do it, but because, you know, Julian and I stopped talking for a little while. He was hella mad about it because I never said anything. It was just one day I called and I was like, I got the keys to an apartment and I'm moving out.
And I was like, give me back that ring. Give me back that ring.
He did say give me back the ring, but I gave it back. But when I got to the house, just to give you guys a little bit of information, all of my stuff was thrown in the room. And it was like, you want to leave? Well, there goes all your stuff. And I was like, no problem. I already had everything all set up. My family was there. They packed everything, helped me pack everything up, and I left. And so Julian and I didn't talk for, I don't know, a few months.
Yeah, it was only a few months.
You know, we always had the same kind of friends and family. We still kept in touch with family. And we had friends who, you know, were encouraging us to continue to work it out and be together. And, you know, one thing led to another, and we got back talking, and then we decided, you know, yes, let's get married, you know, I'm gonna move back. And we decided to work it out.
Yeah, we did. And on top of that, one thing that she needs to add in there is to give credit to my mom and my grandmother. I mean, I really have an awesome family overall. My grandmother, especially my grandmother Allen, who was really doing like a lot of babysitting for us because we lived in the same town. I mean, they loved Nene to death. So even when I was mad at Nene and I hated Nene, they were still allowing her to come over, and I was getting pissed about that. I'm just like, you know, she's my foe now. My foes are your foes. We are family, you know. But they still loved her regardless, and I couldn't stand it. I mean, I you know, so and that's how I am. You know, either you with me or forget me. But fortunately, you know, and I thank my family for it because they are so wonderful, I guess, for lack of better terms. And, you know, it goes on both sides because Nene has family, some of them as crazy as they are, that are just awesome people. So on both sides, we have two awesome families in our background, which I think, you know, we thank you guys, and I think that helps us get along even better. But to add a couple things, so she said basically why it almost didn't happen from her point of view and what the things that happened with her. But for me, the 1990s was some of the best times, and 1990s was some of the worst times. During the 1990s, I was in my 20s, and it was, you know, for a lot of you guys that understand how things were going back in 1980, 1989, crack cocaine had came upon the scene. So when crack cocaine came upon the scene, there was a lot of gangs going on, a lot of profiling, and it was at the point that me and my buddies would sit around and talk about, will we make it past 25? So if we made it past 25, that means we made it. You know, if we did not get killed, because we had homeboys getting killed, we had homeboys going to jail. And we was just like, if we can make it past 25, that means we made it, okay? So the universe has a way of playing a trick on people, if you will. So, like I said, the 1990s was some of my best times, but some of my worst times. At that time, my mother had breast cancer twice, okay? So I don't know if I'm gonna lose my mother, and then who's extremely close to me. And also, my grandmother had ovarian cancer, who was really close to me, okay? So at that time, I'm just like, what the hell is going on? What is the universe trying to tell me? What is going on in this world that I need to get my shit together? Is kind of what I was taking it as. So what ended up happening shortly after, my mother, she did all her treatments. My grandmother was doing treatments. They were losing hair left and right. I mean, to see my mother bald-headed, I mean, it really... To see my mother bald-headed, it really broke my heart, okay? So, knowing what's going on, okay? So, and then to see my grandmother bald-headed, it really, I mean, just these are the women that's closest to me, and you see them as beautiful people, and then you see this chemo just eating them alive for a lack of a better term. But I did have Nene for support, okay? So what ended up happening on top of that is not only did my mother have breast cancer, not only did my grandmother have ovarian cancer, but I ended up getting struck with a blood clot. And that was the first time that I cried in front of Nene ever. Because what happened was, I mean, that's when health insurance changed, and if you were in the hospital longer than 2 days, that means it was serious. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, you know, I felt something that felt like a muscle pull. My legs swelled up pretty badly. And I get to the hospital, And you know, if you guys know me, I'm not a sickly person. Okay, I'm always healthy. I'm always positive. I'm always happy-go-lucky. But that time was like I had, and I like being in control. But that time I had no control. I had zero control. So I got there, and the guy says to me, "You're not going home." So I'm like, "Wait a minute. What do you mean I'm not going home?" He's like, "You have to stay here. You have a blood clot in your leg." So I looked at Nene, and I was just like, the tears just started rolling, because if you guys are familiar with a group called the Fat Boys, his name was the Human Beatbox. He had just died like a month or two prior because of a blood clot. So I didn't have any other knowledge about a blood clot other than you can really die from it. I didn't really understand that it causes strokes. I just knew blood clot equals death. So the guy said, "You're not going anywhere." And I ended up being in the hospital for about 10 days, in which she came to see me every day, and I sat in the bed. I totally lost my freedom. I think it was as bad as being in jail. I had to wash my ass in the bed every day. I could not get out to do anything, you know. So I had to lean over to piss into a cup. It was like the worst thing. I said, if this is like being in jail, I will never go to jail to lose that type of freedom. So, like I said, that was the bad times. But in the meantime, some of the great times is I worked at Manchester Memorial Hospital with a great group of people. You know, I worked with, and that was like probably my favorite job of all times, because we were like family. We stuck together like family. And you know, it was like anything we wanted for each other, we would do. I mean, we could talk to each other in any kind of way. You know, we joked around all day. I mean, it was an awesome job. So, like I said, those were the good times and the bad times. But when Nydia came back, which is the year after, actually it was the year 96. So that was she came back in time for me with the blood clot to support me, and then we got re-engaged, right? So let me tell you how the universe works. When she gave me the ring back, as you guys know, I was pissed. So I took the ring. I knew how much I had paid for the ring. I got the ring from the mall. So anybody watching this, the young people watching this, if you get married, do not buy a ring from the mall because it's unnecessarily expensive. But I knew how much I paid for it. So I'm thinking, it's a diamond. If I bring it to the pawn shop, I should be able to get at least half of what I paid for it. So the guy didn't even offer me like a fraction of what I paid for it. So I was just like, you know what, screw that. I'll keep it for the next chick. So it is what it is. So what ended up happening, she came back, she got the ring back, and I proposed. And with so much going on at that time, okay.
We was in the car, and what did you do with the ring?
I tossed it over to you. It was the same thing.
That's a proposal, ladies?
It's the same thing.
No.
It's the same thing.
No.
You got the ring back. So we ended up getting married, and so let's talk about on the way to the wedding, because I think that was interesting, because like I said, the universe has a way of acting up and not really doing things in your favor. So and by the way, just want to shout out my mother joined, Doug, Carol, my cousin Kevin from Springfield. So we got a lot of Connecticut, Connie, my auntie Connie. So we got Texas in the house. So thank you guys for joining. So let's get to the wedding. So if you guys saw the invite for this or see on our page, you guys probably looked at the wedding party and was just like, you know, like, what the hell? How many people can you fit in one wedding party? So you didn't. Hey, Sharita, how are you? Sharita is one of my old classmates. So and thanks for joining. So if you guys look at, what's up, Rob?
I thought we said hi to you, Rob.
We did say Rob, and he just
listen.
spoiled. So anyway, back to
the wedding.
The wedding.
The day of the wedding.
Okay, so the universe has a way of playing a trick on everybody. So when we were planning our wedding, and we had so many people in the wedding, we knew that we were going to need at least 3 limos. And that's because we had like 30 people in the wedding. 3 limos fit about 10 people.
Yes.
Based on what the limo owner told us. So what I didn't calculate is that she was going to be getting dressed at one house, and I was going to be getting dressed at my grandmother's house. She was going to have the ladies in a long dress, which means only a certain amount of people can get in a limo and not ruin her dress. And I was going to have the fellas. So with the fellas, I think we had about 12. No, I had 10.
15 or whatever.
Well, we had 15, but the kids went with their parents.
Yeah.
So I thought we had calculated it enough, and I thought I was good at math to figure out how to count to 10. But apparently, like I said, the universe has a way of playing a trick on you. Because what happened is, all the girls made it to the church okay, but when it came time for me and the fellas to get to the church, so we went running to the limo, and I'm thinking that I can get into the front seat with the limo driver, and everybody can get in, and we all can roll together. So what the limo driver tells me is, you can't sit in the front seat. And I'm just like, like, what kind of shit is that? Like, I'm paying for this. I'm the one paying for this. And I got all these dudes in the back, and I'm just like, my homeboy's in the back, but I'm like, I'm the one paying, so...
And the church was only 5 minutes up the street.
The church is 5 minutes up the street. So one of my homeboys, and we try not to mention names, but I have to mention this name because she saved the day. Her name is Shelly. Her name is now Shelly Raul. Is it Raul? How to pronounce it? So she's married. She's down in I think North Carolina now, unless she moved. But Shelly, we are thankful because you was there. You saved my ass. You got us there to church. You got me there to the church on time. And the funny thing about it is, after all my homeboys was in the limo ready to go, cause they chilling in the lavish limo, and I'm sitting outside like basically like what Pigpen from Charlie Brown, like the dirty dude, like nobody wants to be around. The limo takes off, and I'm looking, I'm just like, so how am I supposed to get to the church? So with the church being 5 minutes away, like she said, it did kind of cross my mind to walk it, but it was in the summer, it was a hot summer day, and I was just like, there's no way I'm going to get there on time. But Shelly was there. Shelly saved the day. So that's what.
Well, I didn't know any of that was going on until the next day, probably. I was in the limo.
She was in a limo, and yeah,
looking good, and I made it to the church.
Yeah. So anyway, and just to remind, and I think I saw Harry Trevatazzo joined in. What's up,
and
Harry?
Johanna.
Okay, what's up, my people? So we have Connecticut on the check-in pretty deep. So anyway, didn't somebody step in some dog shit or something?
I'm not gonna say who.
So, like I said, the universe has a way of playing a trick. So, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, it was a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day. We finally made it happen. And I mean, we went to counseling. We spent numerous hours at counseling. And I can tell you that if you are married, if you are not married, I can tell you the people that mentored us were great. Mm-hmm. They were an older couple. They had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, they did.
They cooked for us when we would go over there. And I mean, and the way that they would like joke around with each other, I don't know if we kind of take a page out of their book at times, mm-hmm. but I mean, to see them, the way that they interact was just simply awesome. And I think in life, mentors are important. I know my cousin Kevin, Seeds of a Father, I know he normally puts out there how mentors are important. So again, if you're up in the Springfield area, you're looking for a mentor for your kids, or Connecticut area, check Kevin. I'm pretty sure Kevin has resources to get mentors for your young men out there. So again, shout out to Kevin. So you have anything else that you want to add? Mm-mm. Okay. So I want to circle back before we ask anybody else if they have any questions. I just want to circle back real quick. Actually, better yet, does anybody out there have any questions about our relationship or anything before I circle back and answer one of the questions that was asked in the last live. You can type a quick no in.
And if anybody's wondering, our grandmother, I say mine because she was my grandma, big grandma, Grandma Allen we call her, and we always fight, but I was the favorite, so
The favorite
I just
what?
have to say that.
The favorite what?
Grandchild.
No, you're
Grandchild.
grandchild-in-law.
Grandchild.
Grandchild-in-law.
That was my grandmother, but
Yeah.
she made it to the wedding. Everybody made it to the wedding.
But you know, and to add that, you know, to know that I got married before to make sure all my grandparents were alive to see it, I feel good about that. And also, Nene was there when my grandmother passed, and my grandmother passed, and she was the first one that was pretty much the closest person in my life to ever die. And that thing hurt me so bad, and she was there to rub my back and get me through it, because there were times that, you know, I just, like I said, it was a time that I was just wondering, like, what is the universe trying to tell me? What is the universe trying to do to me? Especially when the universe takes somebody who's so close to you, takes away somebody that's so close to you. So, okay, so I see Sharita says no, and my mom is chiming in.
No, she's just talking.
I see Kevin makes a message. Okay, so now since there's no questions, I'm just going to circle back. You know, and the question was asked by my cousin Patricia up in New York. And Patricia, I appreciate this question, but it always hits me hard. So let me be clear on not having a father in the house, okay? Let me be clear. My father was not, I didn't really have a relationship with my father the way that a father and son should have a relationship. I know who my father is. My father and I have done certain projects together. I'm not taking anything away from my father. My father, if I called him, he'll be there, okay? But it wasn't the relationship that most people will have. So Patricia asked me, did I try to have a relationship with him as an adult? And I sent her a message to kind of respond, but I don't want to, like I said, this is uncut. Everything is raw. This is live. This is not rehearsed. So what I responded to her, and I let her know. I said, look, you know, you guys, my grandmother that passed away, we went over to her house, and I met my father over there, and I had a sit down with him. And Chellis was born, and I was basically saying, you know, if not for my sake, at least for the sake of Chellis, like, do you want to have a relationship? So his response to me was he didn't know how. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I'm a teenage father. I don't know how, but I'm trying to do it. So I'm not sure if you guys ever seen the episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where his father comes back in his house and he gets all excited that his father is hanging out with him again. Whoever wrote that script took a page out of my book. And the way Will Smith acted out that part couldn't have been more real. Because everything he said, was exactly how I felt. You tell yourself you're going to be a better father than he will ever be. I came home and I told her, I said, I want to have 6 kids. Before I realized that I had to pay for them all. But I'm gonna tell you, I came home. She asked me how did it go. But between the times that I left my grandmother's house, and you know, and this is very conservative what you're seeing now compared to how I was in the car when I left the room and left him. I was a bag of tears. I was a bag of snots. I'm not gonna even lie. So, if you are a father, and even though you don't have to be with the mother, and you don't have to be the best father, or you don't have to give gifts. You know, I know, and I keep mentioning my cousin Kevin, he has something called presence over presence. And, you know, he says it best. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, the money that a father can give, I mean, it just doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So if you are a father, be there for your child as often as you can be there for your child. Make arrangements because it affects kids. And here I am, I'm still crying. And I'm almost 50 years old. It don't really change no matter what people tell you. People will tell you that everything is going to be okay. It's not that easy at the end of the day. So, I just want to thank everybody for joining the call. And I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Well, just from what you said, you know, we always decided that we was going to try to stay together for our children because, like I said, I was also with my mom, but I always saw my dad on the weekend, holidays, summer. I was always with my father's side of the family, so I have a little different, you know, relationship with my dad. But like Julian said, you know, to encourage single fathers or single mothers, you know, my dad didn't have any money and he didn't work for a lot of his time. He ended up becoming disabled, you know, he passed away 2 years ago. But a phone call, I mean, just to pick up the phone and say, hey, how's it going this week? You know, what's going on? How you doing? And just to be there, to show face, to show that child who you are. You know, it's not all about presents, as, you know, Julian says. It's not all about, you know, just give me this or give me that. You know, just being there with the person, even if you're spending an hour or two with your child, it's gonna make an impact in their life. So that's just my spiel.
So, you know, if you guys don't have anything else that you want to add, just Patricia, I see you just joined. Patricia, I just circled back and answered your question, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to rewind the live and catch up to where you joined. And I'm sorry, guys. I kind of warned some people that it was going to be emotional, and that's why I wanted to save it to the end, because it's always going to affect me. Especially whenever, you know, and this is just certain things, certain songs that, and certain, you know, songs that are going to affect me. You know, like losing my grandmother. There's a song by Boyz II Men called "Mama," and and that song "Mama," like when I hear that song, I think about my grandmother instantly, and it's just something about not having my grandmother, knowing how my grandmother was, and to have, I mean, it's just some voids that are almost like impossible to fill, and my grandmother's one of them. Both of my grandmothers, all of my grandparents. I mean, it's nothing like it. And I you know, I try to picture myself being like half the grandparents that they were, and you know, I try to carry on tradition, and you know, I try to make pies like them, and I think that's another thing is guys. You know, I spent a lot of time with both my grandparents. My grandparents Al, my grandparents Williams. They pretty much raised me, and you know, regardless of their arguments and the things not going right in the house, they always stuck together. Always, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just something about seeing that. And there's a saying that kids will be what they see. And I think that's part of, like, even with my brother, you know, my brother, he's he's an awesome father, and I'm not saying it just because of my brother, but he's there for his kids in the worst way, and I try to be, I'm there for my kids in the worst way, and I believe it's more because of what we've seen. Our grandparents had a heavy impact, and I can't thank my grandparents enough as to what they did for us and the values that they taught us, and it's a blessing to have such people in your life. So, guys, again, if you guys don't have any questions, I just want to thank you guys for taking a minute to kind of let us step back and take a pause. I know you guys probably wasn't expecting this, and again, I apologize, but I really wanted to address Patricia's question, and especially since she dropped it into the comments, and a lot of people could see those comments and not really see the answer, and so I wanted to make sure that everybody actually got the answer to her question. So Patricia, thank you for that question. Unfortunately, this is the reaction that I have when it comes to that type of question. I think the next thing we're going to talk about on the next live is you want to start getting into marriage and money? You want to start talking about finances?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so the next live we're going to talk about marriage and finances. So what we're really trying to do with these past few videos is to lay the foundation so you guys can really understand where we're coming from. Almost like we're trying to establish our credentials. So when we talk and encourage, you guys will know that it's real. And anybody that you guys share this video with or share our page with, when they come to the page, they know that it's real. They can be inspired. They can be encouraged. And we just
we'll let
really
you know
appreciate
where we started from.
Yeah.
And kind of how we grew together, and give you some tips and tricks that you could possibly use. So. And if you have any other questions, any comments, please send those to us. If you have any topics you would like us to discuss, drop it on the page.
Okay, so just to shout out Darlene, Tanika, you guys, we're almost done. So, I don't know if you guys are going to have time to rewind and check the live after we post it. Also, Carrie, shout out to Carrie. We appreciate you guys taking your time.
Did we say hi to Doug?
Doug, did I shout you out? I see you got the muscles. I thought I did. And Doug, I know you're a new father. And one thing, Doug, as a new father, as a father of young kids, I'm going to get into an episode that I think is going to be important for you to watch. So make sure that you tune in, and I might have to tag you directly and just make sure that you wake up and find out, because there's a segment that I talked about earlier that I want to cover in terms of what I think and what I'm seeing in terms of kids being raised in this new world that we're in. And I don't think a lot of parents out there, especially minorities, are really catching on. And usually, minorities are tardy to the party. So, I'll get into it in another session. So,
Kevin has a question.
So I'm going to pause it here. Did he ask a question? I'm looking.
What made us decide to share our life with them?
Great question, Kevin. Okay, so here's the thing. And as we go through this, you'll see. When we talk, I have to remind, because when you go through a lot of shit in life, you don't realize where you came from and where you are. So sometimes you gotta take a step back from, like they say, you can't see the forest from the trees. So you have to take a step back from the trees. And I know we have our conversations all the time about how, Kevin, as you know, we are not supposed to be where we are now. Okay, and where we are now is going to come out in a later live session. So, based on statistics, and I'm sure your guys' statistics because of what you do up there in Springfield, teenagers are supposed to be teenage parents are supposed to be like instant failures. You know, when you have kids, your life is at a young age, your life is ruined according to society. And I think we want to pretty much show and encourage people who may be either in a similar situation or in a worse situation or even in a better situation. And if they're in a better situation, they should be doing even better than us,
Right.
at the minimum. So,
I think encouragement is a big piece of it because, you know, maybe it'll come out later, but some of the things that people told me, I don't know about Julian, but it was not encouraging at all to be that young and for your mind to be, what do they say, impressionable, to
Yeah.
be that young. You know, it will make you think that you can't make it or you can't do anything in your life. So if, you know, if we didn't have family backing us, helping us or encouraging us, you know, we may not be here where we are today. So, you know, there may be someone out there who needs to hear this, who needs some type of encouragement or who needs to hear, you know, you could do it, you could make it.
Yeah, and I think basically, you know, and this is why, you know, you probably see us saying like the page, share the page, because if we can kind of like get the word out, we're hoping that we can kind of make some type of change. You know, we don't know how much impact, but, you know, like I always tell Nene, if I can help change one person, you know, even if it's my kids, if I can just make sure that I help one person, I think I've done my job. And, you know, I don't want to kind of like leave here, especially with the opportunity that we have with social media to get the word out to people. And, you know, leave this earth and not kind of tell the story to encourage the next people. And Kevin, like, you know that I'm going to be talking about being a black man in corporate America. And that's also one of the things that I think is, you know, people are not going to want to miss because what I'm going to have to say about that. So, you know, again, it's about encouraging and just letting people know that what's possible. And, you know, if you guys kind of get a little bit tired of some of the negative stuff on Facebook, you can also hop over to our page and hopefully we can have some positivity that will help with your day or evening or, you know, whatever. But that's pretty much what we're doing. We're just, you know, we're keeping it positive, we keep it encouraging, and we're just trying to, you know, share the love, and especially with the people that might benefit for it. So I know a lot of people are close to us, but, you know, and they don't really like hoard the page and think that, you know, we're being private. We're not being private. This is for the whole public to see and hear. You know, everything about this page is public. Even when we get into our finances, it's going to be public, and that's really showing how much we care because we're going to be stepping out. We're going to be stepping out of our comfort zone, you know, because growing up, your parents always tell you, don't share your business, okay? And we're going to like do the opposite of that to try to bring that encouragement to
So Kevin, you're gonna have to stay tuned because there will be a segment on that piece.
You're gonna have to get that from Chelis.
You'll probably hear from Chelis first. Chelis is a talker, so you know you'll enjoy her. But she already's thinking about, you know, what she wants to share and when. So hopefully it's soon. But it'll be coming.
Yeah, it'll be coming. So stay tuned on that. So again, I just want to thank you guys. You guys have an excellent evening. Again, like the page, share the page. I mean, just because, you know, you may not be going through something, that doesn't mean the person next to you is not going through something or has issues that, you know, may not benefit. So I really appreciate you guys joining us. And, you know, I think, you know, like I mentioned before, is I know some of my homeboys have like the attention span of a 6-year-old, so we're trying to keep it short. But unfortunately, I had to address Patricia's question. And Patricia, thank you for that question. And, you know, hopefully people will really understand the impact of what fatherhood means. You know, I know a lot of mothers out there, you know, they say, oh, well, I was the mother and the father, but you know, and I can say that about my mother, but it's just something about it, and it's not even explainable in words, because like love is not really explainable in words other than that 4-letter word, other than love. You can't really like put your finger on it other than it's just a very emotional thing. And that's how I am. Like, you know, my brother will say that he doesn't care too much, but you know, I'm pretty sure he does. You know, my brother loves my father just as much as I do. And, you know, I mean, there's been times that he talks on it in a slightly different way than I do, but, you know, I'm pretty sure it impacts him the same. I don't, you know, me and my brother, I don't know if it's a zodiac sign thing, because I'm a Scorpio, and I'm very passionate about, you know, pretty much everything and everybody. So if you're close to me, you're a friend for life. And if you are not close to me, chances are you're an enemy forever, and forever is not long enough for you to be an enemy as a Scorpio. But you know, unfortunately, like I said, I'm not going to take anything away from my dad. You know, we build things together. Like, you know, I got like I remember, you know, I got like a shed for the house. He came over, he helped build the shed for the house. I had like a remote control car. He came over and he helped me, you know, build that car. And my dad is a civil engineer by trade, and so building stuff, and he's also excellent with his hands. So he definitely knows his stuff there. But unfortunately, the relationship, the bond between, I think, a father and a son is where we fall short. And just to add one more thing is, because of where we fall short, I mean, there's so many unanswered questions. Like, one of the biggest questions that I have in my heart is, I'm not sure who's going to go before who. I'm not sure if I'm going to die before my father dies, but I have to ask myself, how am I going to feel when he dies? Like, what type of impact is it going to have on me when he dies? Like, sometimes I'm like, well, will I care? Will I not care? And people will say, well, of course you're going to care. But I'm like, well, you know, he was only there some time, so how can you really, like, have that emotion to care so much? Like, when her father died, and she's tough as nails. She doesn't cry that much. But when her father died, she had no choice but to break down.
I cry alone.
You know, so, I mean, so there's emotions that go into a child when the father's not around, especially if the father's living and you know, and they know that they exist. So you have to wonder, like, you know, because I already know, you know, like I said, when my grandmother died, all my grandfathers died, I mean, I was a bag of tears. I was a bag of water, especially, you know, with my grandmother being the first one. I was crying day and night for days. Mm-hmm. For days. I was crying about my grandmothers for days. I mean, I would be sitting at the table and just out of nowhere just start crying, and she comes over and she starts rubbing my back, you know, because I mean, parenting, if you guys, you know, you think it's cute to have kids, it goes way beyond that. I mean, just way beyond just having cute kids. The bond, when you lose somebody, the bond, I mean, it's just indescribable, and it's such an emotional thing that it definitely can take its toll on an individual, you know, and like, you know, people say that the heart doesn't have emotions, but you can feel it in the heart, you can feel it in your stomach. It's a very emotional thing. So with that, if you guys don't have anything, again, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining. Like the page, share the page if you haven't liked it already. There's some instructions that Rosa was nice enough to give us. So you guys can get the feeds first, and when we go live, that you guys won't really miss anything. We try to put it out ahead of time so you guys won't have to circle back and watch the whole thing again, and we try to keep them short. So again, we just want to thank you, and if you guys don't have any questions, comments, and you know, we just want to thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next time. We'll let you know when the next one is going to happen. We're going to get into money and marriage. Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
unless they have other topics.
Unless you guys have other topics. But we know finances and marriage is big. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people don't make it because of money. And we want to talk about that, and we want to talk about how we're managing to kind of make it, and how pretty much money is the least of our problems. So we'll talk about that in the next session. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Hey, Nicole, you're joining. So, Nicole, you're going to have to circle back because we're getting ready to sign off. But we thank everybody for joining. We thank everybody for, especially my cousin Kevin, for the excellent questions. My cousin Patricia for the excellent questions. I will, my mother, give me your, okay. Ma, you already know you get our money. That's not even a question, right? So with that said, again, thank you guys, and we will let you guys know when the next live takes place. We love you, we love you guys. So have an excellent evening.
Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, thank you.